Hey all, so here today to go through what I read in May. I know I posted early in the month that I was in the ER, and so we have some pretty serious health issues. It was a little scary at first, but having followed up with my doctor, she seems pretty optimistic about the long-term issues, and hopefully we can get things into remission, and but that kind of threw things off this month. So it wasn't as good as I had hoped, although I did pretty well, I think, regardless, especially given the circumstances. So hopefully, June will be a bit of a catch-up. The ones I didn't finish in May, I'm leaving on my TBR, and I'm going to try to get to those. And then the ones that are on my June TBR, I'm going to try to do as much of that in June as possible. And then anything I don't get to, I'll have to probably put off till the end of the summer, because there's a readathon in July. So, but let's go through what I read. So I did that Clue readathon, and I did get the right answer. And like I had said with when I did the video about my TBR, is what was nice is that we only had to read 3 suspects, 3 rooms, and 3 weapons. I think it was 9. And so I had created pick books for every one of the suspects, every one of the weapons, and every one of the rooms, but I'd basically by 9 had already completed, gotten the answer and completed my clue sheet. So everything else was kind of a bonus. So while I didn't finish all of the prompts, I did finish the readathon. So still feel like that was progress. So I'm going to go through what I had on the TBR, which ones I got to, which ones I didn't get to, and then my plans moving forward. So, and then there were a couple I read that were outside of the readathon as well. And I'll do a challenge update at some point. It'll be pretty short because there hasn't been a lot of changes since last month. I don't think I read much on the challenges, but I'll still check in with those. All right, so the first thing I read was supposed to be for Colonel Mustard, and that was Slaughterhouse-Five, and I did read this. I really loved this book, and I'm not going out on a limb by saying Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, which is considered one of the best books of all time, that it was great. But it was very surprising. It wasn't at all what I thought, because everyone had told me it was weird. There's like time travel. But it was a lot different than I thought. I thought it was going to be like really sci-fi, and there's elements, but I feel like it's actually more a story of trauma from war, and just really, really well written, very philosophical, just very engaging. Everything about it was great. I want to definitely read more by Vonnegut. Now, I've read I think Harrison Bergeron, the short story, and I think I read To Be or Not to Be. So I think those are the only things I've ever read by Vonnegut. I might have read another short story that I forgot, but definitely have not read any of his novels. And obviously I'm starting with the most popular, but I really liked his writing style. I definitely want to read more of his work. So I have a few things that I own, so at some point I definitely will try to get to those. But really, really loved this. Can't recommend it enough. It's just, obviously it's so weird to kind of recommend a book that's so famous, and but it definitely was one that worked a lot for me, and I just was like, okay, yep, I get it. So I loved it. One of my favorite reads for the month for sure. One of my favorite reads for the year so far. 5 stars, absolutely amazing. All right, so the next one was also a 5-star read for me. Not in the same ballpark, but this was for Professor Plum, and this was Dungeons and Drama. And even in my like on my Goodreads review, I said like this book is not good by any means, like any measure. It's a bad book. I mean, it's like the writing is pretty bad. Like it's super tropey. It's super predictable. The characters are kind of stereotypes. That all said, I absolutely loved it. It was just really cute, really fun. It's a romance about a girl who's like a musical theater geek, and she gets in trouble, so she's grounded, and she has to help out at her dad's game store. And of course, like, there's a boy there, and this is kind of a fun one because he likes this girl in his D&D group, and she just broke up with her boyfriend, and so they basically pretend to like each other or to be in a relationship to make, the other people jealous. And of course, I mean, I'm not spoiling anything. It's super obvious. Like, of course, they end up falling for each other. But it was just, like, really, really cute, really sweet. Absolutely, like, a great palate cleanser. I had been reading a lot of stuff I didn't like. I didn't read them in this order. I'm just going through the order. I had them on the TBR. But I just loved it. It was so, like, light and fun and sweet and just exactly what I needed at that point in time. And I think I read this, like, after I don't remember if it was before or after I had gotten sick, but yeah, I just really loved it. And I recommend it very strongly, but I just say, like, don't go into this thinking you're getting, like, great writing or great, like, anything. It's just exactly what you think it's going to be, but it's very refreshing. It's very cute. I mean, obviously, super clean. It's, like, middle grade YA. I mean, it's technically YA, but it's, like, written almost middle grade. But it's just really fun. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously, I was a musical theater kid, a theater kid in general, and I love, like, D&D and, like, nerdy stuff, and so, I mean, it was just basically everything I wanted. So, all right, then I read #Murder Funding, which was the follow-up to #Murder Trending, for Mr. Green. Unfortunately, like, this one just didn't work for me. Like, I don't know why. It just didn't have the style, the campiness, just the appeal, I felt like, of the first one. I felt like it was, like, almost trying too hard. I have all 3 of them. There was a break for the 3rd one. So, and that one's in an escape room. So I'm hoping, like, that will be more up my alley. But this one just, I don't know. It just, like, couldn't get into it. It just wasn't, it didn't click for me the same way. And like I said, I feel like it was maybe just trying too hard to, like, continue the story. So, I don't know. It's unfortunate because I loved the first one. I thought it was super fun and campy. Maybe if I was in a better mood, I don't know. But it was, like, it read really slow, which is weird because, I mean, I've liked other things by Gretchen McNeil, and that's the thing I like about her books, is they usually, like, read really fast, and this one just, for some reason, just, like, wasn't moving for me either. All right, and then I started the reread of Prisoner of Azkaban. I checked it off because I've read it multiple times in the past, but I've decided, just because, like, with everything else going on, and then with my reading, is, like, I don't like Chamber of Secrets that much, and then I just kind of hit, like, a bit of a slump trying to reread these. I've read them, like I said, multiple times. I just wonder if, like, maybe I'm not, I've read them enough at this point, or, it's a little intimidating because I know I'm getting into the really long ones, and I have other books I really want to get to. So I think I'm just not gonna, like, do the reread of the rest of them. Not because I don't like them. I mean, I can easily talk about them. Like I said, I've read them before many times. But, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll revisit them, when things kind of quiet down and I don't have readathons going on. But, yeah, I just, I don't know. I think I just was like, all right. So I checked it off, but like I said, I didn't end up finishing it. And then I haven't read the Glenmare Girls yet. That one was for Mrs. White. I didn't get to this one, so that's still on my list. It's an arc, so I really want to get to it because I'm like so far behind on my arcs. I read Heartsick by Chelsea Kane, which is Miss Scarlet. This was really solid. Super like intense, very gory, like dark, serial killer kind of. It reminded me a lot of Silence of the Lambs, to be honest, which, like, there aren't too many people who I think can write kind of a similar to the Silence of the Lambs, like that kind of intense serial killer sort of hunt. But this was pretty solid. I did like it a lot. What was weird is I went into this because I love Chelsea Kane. I love her comics. I just think they're fantastic. But they're very funny. They're like satirical and kind of like, they're darkly funny and they're a little obnoxious, but I just love her. This was nothing like that. Like, there was not much humor in it. It's obviously very dark. Similar themes in terms of she's obviously like a pretty feminist writer. And obviously, this was about like violence against women, but there was also a female serial killer. But yeah, I don't know if I'll go and reread. Like, I'll probably at some point try to read some of her other ones. I was just so excited to find out that she actually had like books, not just the comics. But like I said, they're very, very different. But very solid writing, and I don't read a lot of like serial killer kind of this type of book. And I thought this one was very good. So, if you like serial killer stuff, yeah, and like I said, it's pretty gory, and pretty like awful, but a great book. So, all right, so I didn't get to The Trap. That was for the Candlestick. This is moving into weapons. I read Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. This is okay. It was really disappointing because I absolutely loved Burn the Negative last year, and then I had the arc for this, and it was fine. I just felt like it was a little generic, which, like his other one was so fun and campy and like kind of homage, and I guess this one was a little too, but maybe a little more like 70s, 80s horror, and like Burn the Negative was 90s, and so maybe that's the problem. I don't like those movies as much as the 90s stuff. But it was fine. It was a fun horror read, but it just kind of middle of the road for me, unfortunately, which is too bad. I'm definitely going to keep reading his stuff because I think he's great. But yeah, it turns out like one of my writing partners, and I usually like share reading books with her. She actually knows the writer, and like, she's kind of known him for a while, and I guess like his writing journey has been a little bit like, over edited to some point too, and so I wonder if that's part of it, is when he had like a little more freedom, he was a little more creative, and it's kind of tamped down to be a little more I guess accessible, but I just felt like some of the like pizzazz and style was gone, which was too bad. But again, I'll keep reading his stuff. Then I read Red Rising, which I know a lot of people really love. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't even bad. It's just, it was basically Hunger Games in space, with a little more violence, but, so like more sci-fi Hunger Games, but I'd already read Hunger Games, so this just kind of was like, yeah, I've already done this before. And like, again, I think like if you like dystopian stuff, and like, you'd probably like it. It's solid. It's just, I think I'm like so burnt out on dystopian, which is too bad. Or at least YA dystopian, because I feel like they're all very, very similar now. And I've read so many of them because I do love dystopian stuff generally. But yeah, so I mean, again, I don't think it was anything about the book. It just was kind of like, I've been here, done that, so, but I know this is a really popular series, and so if you are looking for more dystopian stuff, you'd probably like it. And then I read The Six. I don't know, this was like, it felt very juvenile. The writing didn't really work for me. It just, overall, just wasn't for me. I didn't get to Mothered, and I didn't get to A Better World. And so now for rooms. So I finally read Little Eve, which is the last Catriona Award that I hadn't read. And I loved it. I mean, I love everything she writes, but this was really good. There was a bit of a plot twist, like there always are with her books. I thought this one was a little more like obvious and straightforward. You can kind of tell in like her later books that she's a little more, she's kind of getting a little more, I don't want to say convoluted because I like her books, but there's a little more complexity, I guess, in the plots. But I mean, it's still, and also like just atmosphere and mood of this book was excellent. And it's about, a family who are kind of like not ostracized, like they deliberately remove themselves from society, and they're basically a bit of a cult, and on this like creepy Scottish island. It's just atmosphere, mood, characters, everything was just spot on. Really, really liked this book. I mean, it's so hard for me because like anything Catriona Ward does is always amazing. And then I finally got to Jennifer McMahon. The Honest Book Reviewer has been like talking her up forever, and so I was like, I'll read one. I actually have another one on my 24 for 24 by her. This was The Children on the Hill, and this was just, again, it was exceptionally well written, and not at all what I thought. And actually early on in the book, I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to like this, because it was all about like monster hunting and stuff, and I thought it was going to be just kind of like very supernatural, a lot of like monstery stuff that like just doesn't usually work for me. But it's a lot more complex than that. And I mean, I wouldn't say it's like unexpected. It's just sort of, it takes turns that it's a different book than I kind of thought at the beginning it would be. And I really liked where it went. The only problem I had with this book is I felt like the ending was kind of abrupt, and so it just sort of like had built like this beautiful story, and then it just kind of like ended. The like afterward, an epilogue I thought was excellent, but then it was just like that actual ending of the story just felt like that's it. So it just felt rushed, so that was the only problem I had with it. But I mean, it worked for the story, and I liked the overall, like all the themes and the writing, and I just wish, like, I kind of wish it was longer. But I did really, really love this. Then I read The Astrology House. I don't know. I just didn't really like the characters. And to be honest, it was kind of forgettable. Like, I don't even remember. I know I read it like this month, and I don't really remember much about it except the characters were kind of obnoxious. Which is too bad because, it's something I would probably like, but I don't know. I just, it just didn't click. And then Friends in Napa, also same thing, not really memorable. Characters were unlikable. And it just, but I wouldn't say like I hated either of these. They were just, didn't really do anything one way or the other. And then Where You End, this was okay. Like, I liked what it was doing. It just wasn't as, like, I don't know. I don't feel like it was, like, executed in the way that I would have liked. A good concept. It just didn't really, like, I felt like there were some parts missing. It just, I don't know. Something about it just didn't feel fully fleshed out, I guess. So this is why I was kind of having like a slump, and that's why I went to my cheesy little romance, because I needed something like that was gonna be memorable, I guess. I didn't get to Dissolution, which is too bad, because that's gonna be that's a TV show, and I really want to watch that, but I'll get to that hopefully eventually. And then Reprieve, which I also really want to get to and just haven't gotten to. The Last Word, I thought this was really fun. It was a fun read. Like, I don't think it's the kind of book you want to think much about, because I feel like if I did, I'd poke like a million holes in it. But it was just fun to read. It's like kind of survival, thriller. It's just, so it worked, and like, it was a very fast-paced, like I said, edge of your seat, kind of just fun read. So I definitely want to read. I haven't read No Exit, but I saw the movie, which I really enjoyed, and there's a couple others I think Taylor Adams has written. So I think I'm going to try to read more, because I think they are fun, and again, they're like that kind of survival, one person against like this vicious evil person, and like, I don't know, it's just fun. And then I didn't get to How Sassy Changed My Life, which hopefully I will get to soon. And then I read Night of the Living Rez, because I was trying to find a short story collection. This was solid. Like, it's one of those things. I don't really like a lot of short story collections. These are all interconnected. And, but this was one of those things where, like, the writing was so good, but I just, like, had a hard time connecting to it. And I mean, really, I don't even know if it says it's a short story collection, but it's almost like I said, it's connected. So I just feel like I would have probably enjoyed it more if it had just been like fleshed out into more of a novel. But, very well written, and I'm definitely going to check out more by this author. And then I read Elevation by Stephen King, which I read because I needed something that had gotten a low rating on our Discord for the Bookish Drummer, and this one I gave like a 3, like, because it's well written, and I mean, it's definitely like, Stephen King, I think, can write some really nice stuff, but I don't really know what the point of it was. Like, I guess it's supposed to be like a metaphor for like illness and terminal illness and stuff, which is nice, but it's just kind of like, I don't know why Stephen King has this obsession with like people's weight. I think he has some like serious like issues with like fat phobia, and it's kind of like concerning. And then I also found like, so the story, basically, you've got this like white dude who is kind of like the opposite of thinner. Well, not even the opposite of thinner, it's basically thinner. But he's losing all this weight, and at least on the scale, even though he doesn't look any different. But then he's like in this small town, and everyone in the small town is kind of prejudiced against this lesbian couple, and he becomes friends with the lesbian couple, and this is a bit of a spoiler. I mean, it's a really short read, so like, definitely like don't listen to the spoiler if you think you're going to read it, because it's short. And but basically, so spoiler, he essentially somehow makes the whole town come together and like the lesbians because of his, like, I don't know, because he's like light or something. I don't know. Like, it just felt like a white savior narrative, but like instead of racial, just on sexual orientation. And I just didn't really understand why like all of these prejudiced people suddenly liked the lesbians, because like this white guy was like helping them. I don't know. It was just like, so they're that prejudiced that they need a white like a white straight man to like vouch for them, or like, I don't know. I just, like, again, like, well written, and if you don't think about it, I don't think like, it's good. But like, once you start like thinking about it, you're like, okay, it's really short, and I don't know what the point is, and there's a lot of flaws, and so I don't know. I mean, like I said, I gave it like a 3 because it was definitely like interesting to read. Like, I wasn't bored, and like the writing's good, so, but I don't know. It kind of like, the more I thought about it, the more I was like annoyed by the whole plot. So yeah, so that was where I ended up for the month. Like I said, June, I was kind of hoping to do like kind of a lighter month anyway, so I'll probably try to roll in some of what I had left into June, and then whatever I don't get to, I'll just probably end up putting off until August or September, so, and hopefully I will still get to them. So that's where I'm at, and like I said, you know, having the health stuff has been kind of my priority and my focus, but, you know, I'm still reading. It's just a little slower while I deal with all that. So, yeah, and Sir Chonk is also dealing with some health stuff, and he is wrapping up school, so I know he's going to do like a March through June wrap up at some point, because he hasn't obviously been reading as much. But yeah, so we'll be back. And we're like behind. We haven't really posted much, and so we will. We have some stuff to get to, some tags, some other videos, some book stuff, some non-book stuff. We're just kind of trying to put it together. So we should hopefully be, you know, slowly popping back up. And apologies for kind of dropping off the face of the earth, but yeah, you know, health comes first. So, all right, so we'll see you around. Bye.